you find it difficult to focus on your customers and even your own employees as you're juggling numerous vendors? Do you have more meetings with vendors than you can count? And do their reports filled with technical jargon make you feel clueless and frustrated? Such is the story of Nathan. Being at a car dealership, he's concerned about his store's digital marketing presence and invests most of his time dealing with vendors to promote his business and gain more sales and market share. Nathan is busy handling reports and reviewing them, not knowing what is happening on the advertising front and about his true ROI. Poor Nathan is worried but can't figure out a solution until he found BZ Consultants Group. BZ Consultants stepped in and was able to take the digital marketing vendor burden off Nathan's plate, giving him peace of mind that the best interest of the dealer was always top of mind. Being an unbiased third party, BZ Consultants always made sure to relay the reports in easy, relatable, and actionable ways so that Nathan could best utilize the data. Now, Nathan can focus on what he really wanted, the customer experience and growth. By being your digital marketing business partner, BZ Consultants Group will remove the hassle trying to hold your vendors accountable and increase your productivity with the time you will now have armed with true data. Together, we make it possible because your success is our goal.
Welcome into Facts Not Feelings, the Furniss Fast Lane, a special edition on Monday, on President's Day, because, Greg, we had a little bit of technical issues, and I will fully admit it was 100% on me. I got some data that was incorrect. It was all on me. So we are back, and we are here on Monday, bringing in my wonderful friend, Gregory Ashe from M1 Data. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was going to say we might be one too many people, but I'll be your fall guy.
No, yeah, no, it was definitely on me, 100%. Like that was, for those
it wasn't even on you. It was on Comcast.
This is true.
Let's blame where it actually belongs.
I agree with that. And for those who didn't see, it was a week ago Friday. We came on a little bit late. We were just having massive issues, and my internet's saying it's upload speeds, download speeds are awesome. His is obviously saying they're awesome. He's hardlined in. So afterwards, I was on a mission to figure out what the hell was going on with it. And Comcast lied to me, and they were using up like a terabyte a day of data, which is pretty much impossible to do. So yeah, it was definitely on Comcast on that one. So, but we got you back now, so it's all good.
Yep, glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. So before we jump into the fun-fillness of the episode that dropped about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we just got off the NADA, and we're talking about behind the scenes here, just how insanely crazy things have been. What was your take from NADA?
NADA was busy. I want to say that's probably the best show by far since COVID. I was nonstop, as you were. I came out of it with a voice. You didn't.
I did not.
It was nonstop meetings. It's been nonstop follow-up, knock on wood. We've definitely been blessed by this show and continue to be blessed. Still doing follow-ups, still doing demos from the show. So really happy with that and looking forward to keeping that momentum going throughout 2024.
Yes. And you have a birthday coming up, sir. Do you not?
Friday.
Yeah, buddy. Speaking of having no voice afterwards.
Oh, that might be a liver, not a voice. I don't know if you've met my friends.
Oh, I have.
Or drank with them.
I've tried. It's trying to keep up. It's a difficult task, but I just I have to prep my liver beforehand. All right, this is what's going to happen. I need you just to pull through for one night. That's all I'm asking you.
Well, I have a feeling this is going to be more than one night since most of them are getting into town on Wednesday or Thursday. So, and then we have, plans throughout the weekend as well. Weather's supposed to be beautiful down here in Fort Lauderdale. So probably get out on the boat and enjoy the water and enjoy the beach and stuff like that. So it's going to be a marathon. So I just keep telling myself, pace yourself.
Good luck with that one. Maybe don't. What was the photo you guys said that was like a massive wine glass, but you guys had all bourbon in it?
It was, yeah. So it was.
You remember?
Yeah, I do remember. We were at Eddie V's, and they had this 400 milliliter snifter glass that they use. That they do live music there, and it sits on top of the piano, and it's supposed to be a tip jar. And a real good buddy of mine was walking by, and he goes, "We need to drink out of this." So we made an offer. They gave us a reality check on how much that glass actually cost. And about $750 later, we owned this 400 milliliter snifter glass. And we ordered 2 bottles of bourbon and poured it in the snifter glass and continued to drink that throughout the evening. And then we decided to take it to another location, which they were not happy. We were bringing in outside alcohol. And I said, well, what if we buy a bottle of bourbon? So we poured another bottle of bourbon into it. And now all of your listeners think that I may or may not have a drinking problem.
It was, it was just for a good time. No biggie. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely.
Yes, those are definitely fun conversations, by the way, to have when after 3 bottles of bourbon.
Well, no, I do remember FaceTiming you with Kendall as we were leaving Eddie V's and headed to the next location. No, I'm completely aware of everything that occurred that night.
I just, once again, props. That's impressive. Is all I'm going to say. I don't know that I would have been. I know I wouldn't be able to keep up with bourbon. If it was vodka, maybe, but bourbon, I'd be done for. Not be on the ground, passed out.
You build up a tolerance.
This is true. So on that note, you've actually got birthday comments coming in here. We got Brian Ortega saying happy birthday to you.
Thanks, Brian.
Jeff Ortega. Jeff Revilla, his birthday's every day, is now saying thank you, Brian, because it's Jeff's birthday every day. And going back up here, Robbie, I couldn't agree more. I'm super stoked for the show. It was a little delayed, but makes it well worth the wait. And we've also got Jeff Shearer. Hello to you as well, Jeff. So we had a pretty kick-ass episode that dropped, about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks on Thursday. What was one of your, if you can go think back that far, what was one of your takeaways from our show?
Oh, wow. We shot that months ago.
Right.
There were a lot of different things. As stated, when I couldn't get on a week or so ago, I'm still looking for that CDP that's privacy and compliance first. My phone still has not rung, my email, nothing. That's a key takeaway, and that's more of a key takeaway for the dealers more so than it is for me or anyone like that. I have heard of rumblings of people building them. I have received those phone calls. I've spoken with 1 or 2 of them. The reality is they're probably 12 to 14 months out, which is, hey, that's better than nothing. But it's still, way too in the infancy to even talk about what either one of those products are. Plus, I don't know that any of those guys really wanted out on the roadmap what they're doing, so I'll keep it hushed there. I believe we touched on AI a bit. AI was all over the place at NADA.
Conference.
Like every other booth that you went to was pushing some form of AI. I'll bite my tongue on that, as most of what I saw was, more predictive analytics or if this, then that logic. As I said, I'm not here to beat anybody up, but what else came from the show? A lot of fixed op stuff came from the show. A lot of companies, switching over to focus more on fix op. The dealership landscape is changing. All the articles that have been out recently about dealers losing profitability, things of that nature. Customer retention is going to be huge. So obviously the best place to retain a customer is in fixed ops, maintain that relationship with them. So saw a bunch of cool fixed ops products. Obviously we launched one last October at Digital Dealer. So great to hear that we're, on the same path as where a lot of the industry's going, predicated on today's times. I would say those are probably the top 3. I'm sure if I think about it, we could probably go on for an hour just about things at NADA. I believe last week, it was Peter Smith who was saying the show's not long enough. The show isn't long enough, but I don't want it to go any longer.
Like, I can't do any more Vegas, man.
It's Vegas, the worst or worst best. I honestly don't know. when we go to Louisiana, can we have 20 parties a night? I mean, it's impossible to go everywhere.
Mhm.
And I feel bad because I know so many folks within the industry. I try and, be respectful and show face, but there's just absolutely no way to do it. I think Troy and Jeffrey and Dan did a great job by just saying, "Hey, we got a suite. We're going to just throw a cocktail." I don't even want to say hour because it was like cocktail 8 hours every night.
It was a
Uh,
long time.
and just, they kind of let people come through as they come through because they understood there were so many parties. I tried to get there multiple nights. I only got there for one, and I think I saw you for 45 minutes, and then I had to run to the next thing. So, maybe with New Orleans, it's going to be, it's a lot more compact than Vegas. Vegas is so large, bouncing around takes a half an hour to get to. So maybe New Orleans will be a bit better, as I would assume anybody doing entertainment is going to be right down there by the convention center. So interesting to see, what next year has to bring to the table.
Amen to that. Like you said, even if you go and you scout out, hey, I'm going to do this and this and this, you've got to plan in that something is going to go awry. Like something's not going to happen. You're not going to make it. I personally had to cancel out of a couple different things. So I was like, hey, it's between trying to host the happy hour and do that whole thing. As you saw, you just run around with your head cut off. You can only be in so many places at once. Like I would love to be able to cut myself in half, but unfortunately have not learned how to do that or clone myself. So I agree. 100%
Well, if you
agree.
figure it out, let me know. I need it.
I will. Doesn't Smart Pixel do something like that at this point? Can't they clone
No,
people?
that just de-anonymizes website traffic.
Dang it!
Trust me, if that was cloning, I would be over there working and you'd be talking to my clone.
So I do want to talk about, before we go into more to the show and our episode, is the Smart Pixel technology. And I've said this before, is that I am not easily impressed. As I'm sure you're not either. You hear so many things, the latest and greatest, the coolest thing, it's the best things since sliced bread. Oh my God, this is going to fix everything. And the first time I was introduced to you all, I want to say it was probably a digital dealer 2-3 years ago, probably. And I was like, I didn't really know what it was. And then between Dan and Kendall, we started talking about it. I was like, hold up, it does what? I think this is incredible. So it like I say that, and I don't mean this to embarrass you. This is a product that I was so blown away with, like the technology between what M1 Data does and this, just all of it. So for those that for some reason have not listened to the show, I don't know why they wouldn't, but maybe they haven't listened to our episode yet. Talk a little bit about what all you guys do and the incredibleness that you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, so we're a data and technology company. First and foremost, we're a data company. We compile data all through our own technology stack. Everything from real-time validation tools to our Smart Pixel technology to our lightweight location SDK technology. For those that don't know what lightweight location SDK is, you download a mobile app and it says, how do you want to share your location? We process location data in real time for mobile apps for an enhanced consumer experience, specifically for that app. We give that lightweight location SDK away for free to those mobile apps in lieu of first-party rights for that to use that data after a certain threshold of time has passed for our own purposes to build footfall behaviors and things of that nature. But first and foremost, like I said, we're a data company. We compile consumer transaction data from online and shopping habits, what someone's buying, how often they're buying, are they on some type of subscription service for certain products? How does that correlate to what type of car they drive? We understand household makeup. So if we see Mary drives a Honda Accord and she has 2 boys in the household who just became teenagers, and we see a large spike in sporting goods equipment. Well, we can then check to see where Mary is in her trade cycle. And if she's at a certain point in her trade cycle, we can state that, Mary is most likely an intender for her next vehicle for a crossover or an SUV. She's X number days away from her standard trade pattern. Start marketing to her, 30 days from now, or whatever the case may be. So we're able to tie in not just automotive data, but our consumer data, our lifestyle data, our behavior data, our life event data, and everything else, as well as mobile location data, to really build a true consumer profile of an individual and understand how and when to hit them with what we refer to as the next best message.
And that's the thing, like people, so often we go, oh, a CDP is going to do this. Well, to an extent, the data that you're getting is so robust, so robust, and being able to implement that accordingly to the example you gave is phenomenal. I mean, there's so many different ways this can be utilized to know, okay, instead of that mass marketing, which is so archaic, and getting things for a car you already have or whatever it may be, but knowing that this person is in the market right now, this is the message you need to be sending. So whether it's the soccer mom that, hey, maybe you're in a coupe and probably need to be getting something bigger, or any other scenario that anyone can think of at this point, like there are so many ways to use this data. And once again, I've heard a lot of products that will tout this, but actually when I saw it firsthand, I was like, holy shit, this is this is incredible. And so, like, going back to the episode, you said, hey, I'll give anyone I think it was a 30-day trial. Was that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Take them up on that. As long as I'm going to put up your information here one more time here. So connect with this man, check it out. Like, this is, you're doing yourself a disservice and lighting your money on fire if you don't take advantage of this. Like, to me, it's just no brainer. Absolute no brainer on this one.
And I will add, Smart Pixel is a cookieless solution. It has been since its inception. It wasn't built to be a cookieless solution because I have a crystal ball. It just happened to be that way. And at this point, Smart Pixel will be 9 years old this April. So we've definitely, stubbed our toes and whatnot with the product, and have been through all of the iterations with tech changes and things of that nature. Apple iOS changes don't impact Smart Pixel or our ability to, divulge any information and or match to an individual. So, coming up here in, very short order, when Google decides, third-party cookies is completely deprecated, hopefully that sets us up to be, the key provider in the marketplace.
Yes, and I think I may have said this on our episode. I can't remember, but I remember talking to a company that was touting how great their, I'll say, retargeting and personalization. I just go, this had to been like probably 2019, and I just go, I'm going to carry 2020, 2019. I go, what are you doing about cookies going away? And it was just like deer in the headlight. Like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I go, so you guys are using cookies, right? Yeah. I go, okay, that's a problem. If you have anybody right now that is not, that's not already past that, like, hey, we're not going to use cookies, maybe take a second look at that company, because that technology is outdated. It's not, like, for me personally, for someone that clears their cache in cookies every single day, every time my browser closes. I mean, not everyone's going to do that. I understand I'm not normal in a lot of different ways, but little things like that makes a big difference when the technology, the company, and the partner with whom you are partnering has already thought of those things. And, maybe you just have a crystal ball, like our good friend Greg over here. So
no, I don't have a crystal ball. And universal ID is essentially going to replace cookies. It's just, it remains to be seen what the fallout of universal ID versus a cookie is. And I think that comes down to a lot of, how well Google plays. There's a bunch of back and forth between the IAB and Google right now about the privacy sandbox and what it can do and what it can't do. I have my own opinions. I don't understand why IAB didn't bring Google in to be a part of this committee.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. Why not have the voice right there that can answer your questions, instead of writing an article and sending it out, and then, a week or 10 days goes by and then Google responds, and now, you're reassembling that board of individuals in order to try and counter Google. You should have just brought somebody from Google or multiple individuals from Google to be a part of that round table. It doesn't make sense to me. But who knows? But like I said, I mean, universal ID is going to replace cookie. There's not issues, but there's definitely going to be fallout, as it requires, user to be logged in and a hashed email and, specific different things. Obviously, you can't write to the browser anymore, but that's also limited to third-party cookies. So then how many first-party companies that have massive audiences are going to come to the fold and volunteer and be a part of that and, monetize their own data asset, to further enhance universal ID? That's the stuff that remains to be unknown. But what I do know about, the advertising industry and the marketing industry is that's going to occur. the question just becomes at what scale in today's society with all of the different privacy laws, who wants to play there, how do you regulate it state by state, so on and so forth. So,
And I'm glad you just brought the regulation part of it, because I know we actually were joking, like we could do another 4 hours just based on privacy and regulations. So I'm just gonna let you run with that one, because there's so many ways. I know we spoke about this a little bit, but I'm just gonna let you run with that one.
you just want me to run with privacy and regulation?
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about it, but it's a hot mess, man. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my concern with the CDP world. You have, car dealers and groups and tier two agencies that, are touting, go to a CDP, go to a CDP. To me, it's just like the DMS world. You have all these companies that, go and pull from a dealer's DMS, and there's no control over how that data is used, where it goes to, so on and so forth. With just take the 7 states, that have independent privacy laws for their specific state, and the need for consumer controls in place. And if a consumer raises their hand and says, okay, Mr. Dealer, I want to know everyone who touched my data. Well, if it's going to a CDP, is the CDP, archiving the information of, who all has touched that data and what it was used for and what type of ad it was used for? Does the dealer have that ability with their DMS of who's pulled their DMS and for what purpose? Were there any subcontractors involved, or so on and so forth? The list just goes on and on and on, which is why I keep saying, if somebody has a privacy and compliant CDP, that if you're building it, if it's already out, whatever have you, I have clients for you. I don't want anything in return for it. I just want to introduce my clients to a company that's going to have compliance and privacy at the forefront, so that these dealers don't worry about it. That's their number one concern. So again, I could go down the privacy and compliance rabbit hole for hours, but you asked me where I wanted to go with it, and that's my choice.
nice. And I will say as well, I mean, and this is something we talked about, but just to bring it up again, if you, for some reason, like I said, you've not had a chance to consume the podcast, is that compliancy portion of it, is how often this happens where, by law, it says that you have to tell the consumer every single person that's touched your data, every single person that's had access to that data. So that lead comes in, and where all is that coming from? So if it's a tier 1 versus a tier 2 versus a tier 3, who is having access to that? Because if it's coming from a third party site, multiple people have access to that. So how are you delineating that this person, this company, or it's coming from the OEM? Well, what's the OEM doing? I mean, I was sitting on a call with a client and the OEM where they wanted to, I won't call it a CDP, but it more or less was acting similar to that. And if you read the fine print on it, that the OEM and the other partner, which was not the dealership, could do anything they wanted with that data. I go, so are you then, once again, are you disclaiming that and telling the consumer, oh, by the way, when you do this, we have no control what's going to happen with it. And the OEM and this other party, as long as it benefits them, they're just going to take it and do whatever the hell they want with it. So there's all these like moving levers that to figure out what's going to work best, who has access to it. And even when it's, hey, we're being forced onto XYZ, this happens a lot in our industry. I'm fully aware of that. So, but going back to that is, who owns the data? And do you have any say in that? That, to me, that's another really big one that I know we covered.
Yep. Well, the consumer owns their own data, obviously. In this specific instance, obviously the dealership that they have a relationship has a certain right to use that data as per the terms and conditions and what that consumer, opted in for, and or even tier 1, tier 2, depending on who the relationship is upstream. But that's kind of where it stops. Now, obviously, a direct mail house is an affiliate of that dealership performing services on behalf of them. Okay. And or a digital marketing agency, if they're uploading the DMS as a form of a custom audience or performing fixed operations or equity mining, those are all affiliates of the dealership. And I would hope that in that opt-in process, that's covered in the terms of service, terms and conditions, privacy policy, opt-out requirements, so on and so forth. But I mean, as long as that's in place, you're okay. But when you have, tertiary company, polling your data and then taking your dealer DMS data in, you don't have control of, is that data encrypted at rest if they're pulling in financial information. I mean, I know companies that pull in polling data, they're pulling in term finance amounts, payment amounts, things of that nature, which all falls under financial data, should be encrypted at rest. Now, whether or not they're actually mapping that data in, so on and so forth, we could argue about that. And I don't want to point out fingers and, name any companies. So, but there's liability in all of that data. Okay. That data needs to be encrypted in transit. It needs to be encrypted in rest while not in use, then be used and be re-encrypted. So, there's all of these different things where just the dealer has all of this liability and zero control.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they do have control. They just don't choose to use it.
Exactly. I was working the dealership, and there was I'm going to call this person a vendor, not a partner. The story's going to tell, you'll understand why. So they're asking for the sold data. And I just go, hey, wouldn't it be better instead of emailing this, because it's actually against a lot of email, all this PII back and forth, like you can't do that. Maybe put it up into a Google Drive, OneDrive, somewhere that you then just a link that only that person gets. And I got told over and over, oh, no, we can send. I go, actually, no, you can't, but you can do whatever you want. That's just not legal. So fast forward, it's like the third or fourth sold report that the dealer's sending over. And we get a response back from another dealer that it must have been BCC'd on there. We don't see the person. This person hits reply all and sends it to like 30 different dealerships. Everything about the consumer that was sold. We've got name, phone number, how much they made on it, what vehicle, what the front end. I'm like, are you this is what I'm talking about. Stop sending emails back and forth. Like, please put them in a secure location. Like, there's many ways to do this. And if you don't have, easiest would be something like in the cloud and giving the link to someone. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. But I mean, this is the stuff like, you now have hired someone who is putting you at risk, or there's a texting company that's putting you at risk, or whatever it may be. There's just really dive into that. So between GLBA and we got CARS rule coming down the pike here on July 30th. So there's how we do business. It is changing, and we'll change the CARS rule, but there's just simple things that we should have been doing for a really, really long time.
Yeah. And I don't even recommend a cloud link when sharing data. You can always mistype an email, things of that nature. Secure FTP and login credentials is, in my personal opinion, the safest way to go.
Agreed.
I can understand, obviously, you're typing in an email address that is specific, and, that's just a due diligence on your part on making sure you're sending to the right individual. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Just we're not a fan here at M1 of ever sharing any type of cloud-based link for, sensitive data.
So here, I'm going to follow up that question. So the companies with whom I've worked, there's only a handful that even can do the FTP, which is crazy to me, but you're asking for sensitive information. So if a dealer is like, okay, I want to be secure, and I agree, it should be FTP. That's 100%. I agree. Just from what I've seen, majority don't do this. They want an email, which is insane. What would you tell a dealer?
You can set up a cloud FTP service for not that much money, depending on, you pay for storage. So you pay for how big of storage you want. Setting up a user is probably as simple as creating an email address. It really isn't that difficult. Most of your cloud-based FTP and SFTP platforms have a real easy-to-use user interface that walks you through. Create a username. You can self-generate a password so that that you're creating extremely unique, passwords that, can't really be mimicked unless someone has it. You don't have to think of a password. And then you set whether or not it's a standard FTP or a secure FTP. And if it's a secure FTP, you can go as far as specifically whitelisting IP addresses. So you would tell that user, hey, I need your IP address. It's the only way that you can access that FTP. You can make it as secure as you want to make it. And like I said, in today's world, those cloud-based FTP and SFTP platforms, they hold your hand through the process, and they're not really expensive. It may be, $100 or $200 a month to, have a base account, and then you pay for storage after that. It's not really a lot of money when you think about what the impacts are if you were to have a data breach. I've never seen a data breach out in the marketplace that a cyber liability policy would cover, period. I mean,
Yep.
it's getting harder and harder to get cyber liability policies in the multiple millions. I think we sit at either 5 or 7 million. That's never going to cover a data breach, no matter
Mm-mm.
what it is.
No. And I'm
But
just going to stop here for a second, because that's something that I want you to repeat. For those that are listening, this is, we've talked about this before on GLBA shows, but if you have insurance and you think, oh, $100,000 is going to cover, or $1 million is going to cover it, it is not going to cover it. So, Greg, just say what you said one time, because that is so key.
no, like I said, the max you can get a cyber liability policy for is, I think, somewhere around $5 to $7 million. They just will not bind something larger than that. And I don't think I can think of any data breach that has ever occurred where the penalty has been under $7 million. I legitimately don't think that. So when you think about, a dealership, DMS, your average store is probably going to have 45 to 65,000 records in it historically. And if they've been around for 5+ years, that's probably what they're going to have between, ROs and sales data. So, you do that multiplication times the fine amount, it far exceeds $7 million. So, making sure that you securely transfer the data should definitely be at the forefront of your mind, especially for something that might cost you $200 or $300 a month, which I don't think the average dealer would ever be that high. It'd probably be closer to $200. But, for a simple cloud, FTP service, it's just not expensive. And like I said, it's really easy to spin up a user. It doesn't take an IT guy to do it by any means.
It's also why I live off LastPass, or any type of password keeper. I'm like, I don't need to. We had a friend over, and they're like, oh, what's your password to your Wi-Fi? I go, it's probably best if I just read it to you, because to try to, it's like 1,200, but they're probably like 16 characters long. And unless someone has the master password into the password keeper, whatever you choose,
Yep.
People aren't going to guess it. They're just not. I get made fun of all the time when people are, I'm like, no, this is the secure way to do it. You can change it to whatever you want, but I've done my part to provide you with the access with a secure password, but do what you want with it. Oh man. Yeah. And this, like I said, you and I could talk about this for hours. It's such a big topic, a needed topic, and one that for some reason keeps getting overlooked. Right. I've got a group down the street from me who was fined by the FTC. I've got another group that we're actually good friends with. Their entire group got fined by the FTC, and was all off of security issues. And there were some other things as well, but security was number one thing that was happening. So this is going to keep happening, and at some point it will take probably I'll use Tom Klein's words here, probably 4 to 5 dealerships that fall, and then finally maybe we should start taking it seriously. So it's a really big issue for sure. What else from the show sticks out in your mind from our episode?
You want to go down the AI rabbit hole?
Dude, let's bring it. Let's go. Let's do. Bring it.
Where do I want to go with this?
It's up to you, sir.
Dealers need to look at a different level of AI called actual intelligence before they start down the path of artificial intelligence. There's a lot of companies out there that tout AI, which is more so what back in the 80s and 90s was predictive analytics, okay, or more often referred to as if this then that, under the guise of AI. Now I can understand AI assisted text or AI companion chatbots and stuff like that. I would also tell you, work with your AI companies on that. For instance, it's 8:35 at night. Mary's online. She sees the car that she wants. She integrates with the chat. What are your office hours? The chat's going to tell her until 9. But I guarantee you, if Mary talked to a sales guy, the sales guy saying, Mary, by what time can you get here? 9:05. I'm going to wait for you. That salesman wants a sale. When you're talking about AI, when it comes to like creative and video and putting ads together, absolutely. There's quite a few companies out there. If I'm not going to plug anybody on the bad, I'm not going to plug anybody on the good. So I'm not going to mention any of those companies. But that's where I saw real AI at NADA when it came to creative services, video, things of that nature, or voiceovers, and things of that nature. But companies saying they're using AI in order to pick out, who's, most likely to be in market or who's most likely in service or so on and so forth. There were so many nuances when you really kind of dug in to them about the data, or, what are they triggering the AI off of? And most importantly, the number one question I asked all of the AI marketing companies that were using it for marketing purposes and not just to build creative was, okay, so you're going to take the dealer's DMS and you're going to put it in this platform, and then you're going to run AI, right? Okay, cool. What are you doing to that dealer's data before you put it in the AI engine?
Thank you.
And every single one of them said nothing. It's the cleanest data. Well, I can tell we hygiene dealer DMS data here. Okay. I can tell you that I can take the average dealer's DMS data, and 35% of the people in that database no longer own that vehicle. I can tell you that roughly 8% of those people have moved and probably don't even live in that dealer's PMA anymore. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to power AI with data, at least make sure you clean the data. So if somebody doesn't know to clean the data before they try and power a AI engine with it, let's use some real actual intelligence before we try and actually power AI.
Amen. And it is shocking to me how many times that doesn't happen. Or on the flip side, you're told it's been cleaned, but then you go in and you inspect what you expect out of people, and it hasn't been at all. And,
see, the thing is, I believe that that's a two-headed animal there. Okay. And the reason I say that is you have all of these marketing companies out here that tell a dealer they're going to hygiene their data. Okay. And they do hygiene their data specifically for their campaign. That data never gets written back to the dealer's DMS. Okay. No. And probably the most often reason for that is, one, most people don't know how to do it. And on the flip side of that, the people that do know how to do it, the DMSs make it very cost prohibitive to do. CDK, for example, I think it's 14 cents a record to rewrite back into the dealer DMS, where you would be overriding a record, updating an address or something of that nature. And I also think there's a field limitation before you start to incur additional charges. Now, I could also sit here and make the argument that says if 40% of your database is bad and it costs 14 cents per record to update, you would save far more than what it would cost you, in bad direct mail or bad marketing or bad audiences. So I could make that argument, but to sit there and try and educate a dealer or educate a marketer, so on and so forth, is difficult. But neither here nor there. A marketing company generally goes to the dealer and says, we're going to hygiene your data. And then they use it for their campaign. The dealer's not a data guy, so he just assumes his data has been hygiened. So the dealer doesn't actually know any better. Now, ignorance isn't bliss, but let's just be honest with each other here. That dealer probably thinks that his data has been cleaned, and now his DMS represents this clean data asset to go on. But these AI companies should be smart enough to say, hey, in order for us to upload your data into our AI engine and for it to work properly, you're going to have we're going to have to go through this process, hygiene this data, confirm that these people still own these vehicles, so on and so forth. And every company that I talked to at NADA, that was kind of like my last question to find out if they were, to me, truly in AI. I would think anybody that can build an AI engine also understands data. Kind of have to have both.
You're putting a lot of faith in people.
You kind of really do have to have both. And that was kind of like my kicker question to know, okay, are they really an AI or are they full of shit?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was only one company that kind of pseudo passed that smell test. And their response was, well, we NCOA.
Mm.
Well, that was
Okay.
better than
It's
saying
better than nothing.
nothing. So, but NCOA was the furthest thing that I got out of that, my kicker question when it came to talking to AI companies out at NADA.
That's crazy to me. Like, it's such a big thing. And then I'll take it the other way as well, is that you'll have a CRM company that says, hey, we're going to clean your data, which is, whether they truly do it or not is a whole other conversation. But I can tell you the ones that I've seen thus far, and I've seen just about all of them, is they may change one thing, but it's all proprietary. It's got to be, this has got to happen, this has got to happen, this has got to happen, and then maybe it'll change it. But it could still be the bad information. But that's not pushing back over the DMS. Your DMS is still a hot mess. So that's the other thing. If you're paying for one, understand what's it cleaning, how often it's cleaning it, and what exactly it's cleaning. And please have someone just go back and spot check a couple things, because now you're sending out, maybe you're sending out an e-blast or any type of marketing, text, whatever it may be, marketing, and you still don't have the right email address because for some reason it didn't recognize that this may be a right one. And maybe they opted out, but they opted out of something else, whether it was maybe your CDP they opted out of, but now in the CRM, they still opted in. So now you're still emailing them and they're pissed off. And so there's just all these moving parts of trying to figure out.
Still opted in the DMS.
It's still in the DMS. And the majority of people, when they are trying to truly market, are going to pull from the DMS because that should be the brain of everything, except it's just, it needs to be cleaned.
Well, I mean, like I said, if you had, a privacy and compliant first CDP, I would tell you that the CDP should be where you pull from. Let the DMS be the DMS. If you have a compliance and privacy first CDP, they're integrated with every DMS. Okay. So they have the ability to write that opt out back in. There's no dealer, like I said, I had mentioned CDK, I believe it's like 14 cents a record. Okay. There's no dealer on the face of this earth that is going to say, no, I don't want to pay that 14 cents to ensure that I don't market to that individual. The ramifications of marketing to that individual that are likely there if you continue to do so are millions times more expensive than that 14 cents. Okay. So no dealer's going to complain about, writing that opt out to the DMS. So, and if there is a CDP that is privacy and compliance first, that CDP should be able to track who touches that data, what the use was for, what marketing campaign did it belong to. Yeah, it's a pain to fill out, and you have to be diligent and tedious, but that really should be the hub because you might have some financial information in the CDP, but you don't necessarily need all of it. Okay. You don't need the payment amount. You probably need what it amounts to term start date, term end date, so that you can understand where they're at. I guess equity mining tools would need payment for equity mining. So maybe I'm wrong there. But in most cases, you wouldn't need all of that real finite, financial information. You just really need to know the individual and maybe a few different things. And I know there's fixed ops companies going to yell at me. No, I need, an update every 30 seconds to ROs and, every 2.5 minutes to sales. And I don't understand why you ever need to ping a DMS that many times in a day. I don't know of anything that's that real time in our industry that requires you just to constantly beat up the dealer's DMS.
And to your point, you give a great example of, personally what happened. I'll say as well as I've worked with companies out there that it's pretty damn close. It's kind of like your story. It was so real time that the salesperson is picking up the phone and calling the customer. And the customer was so freaked out about how do you even know how do you know this? Like, at what point did I sign my rights away that you can reach out, immediately and know that I'm on XYZ website. I'm looking at this. I have the whole history on it. It scared the hell out of the customer. And it's very similar to what you had as well. So having that bit of delay benefits you, the dealer, so you don't have people make bonehead mistakes. A very politically correct way to say that.
I would chose different words, but
it's very rare that I do. But I think we get so caught up in this instant gratification world where we have to have it right now, It's like, but how does it benefit you? What's the disadvantage of having it 5 minutes from now? I think you said it was 8 minutes that you guys delay. Is that correct?
Yeah, on the Smart Pixel product, we delay 8 minutes, just so that, people, now I'm going to be politically correct. People don't do boneheaded things, just as you said. I mean, the last thing we want is somebody communicating with someone, during a web experience and saying, "Oh, I can see you comparing this vehicle and this vehicle right now. How do I get you into the dealership to test drive one of the two?" That's creepy. Okay.
It is creepy.
Now, utilizing that data for a better next best message, okay, in an email, in a digital ad, whatever have you, where it's kind of circumstantial or coincidental, that just happened to be what they were looking at. I believe in that method, but I understand salespeople are aggressive. They want to, achieve goals and, draw new heights. So I get it.
Yeah, we've all had the experience either, our phone was it was near us, but it was not turned on. You say something, all of a sudden you get the ads for it. The one that always gets
That's
me.
Amazon. I'm telling you right now, if you have the Amazon app on your phone and you say something out loud and get an ad for it, there you go. I solve that problem for you on this podcast.
So the other one that got me, and I didn't know this. So actually, for a while up until I had now I have a company, but I took off Messenger and I took off, not that I use Redbox, but Redbox. If you said something about renting a movie, anyone's listening has all of a sudden you'd get a coupon about free rental, and Messenger listens to everything you freaking say anyway. So
Yep.
I specifically took that off. Just because I'm like, not really sure about the situation here. So little things like that, or having your phone, you're at, we'll say Whole Foods, going to Amazon, your Whole Foods, your camera's pointing towards whatever. And all of a sudden now you're like, I didn't even say anything. How does it know this? Well, it's because your camera. That's how. It's nuts, man.
It does. But hey, no one reads those terms and conditions except here. Check.
Yep. I have not went through the Apple TNC in a while, but going back probably 10 years ago, if you read it, it actually says that you will buy a new Apple product every 2 years. Now, obviously not enforcing that, but you are literally signing that you're going to buy a new Apple product every 2 years. It's just crazy what are in these terms and conditions that I'm the weird one. I'm like, give me, 30 minutes. I got to go through. It's like, you're going to read this. I'm like, hell yeah. I don't know what you're doing with my information. Like, I need to know.
Android for me.
Herbie Hancock. There we go. Fantastic.
I know all of you hate me because I ruin your group chats, but deal with it.
I just barely switched over. As you know, I'm now a Blue Bubble, and I've been Android I have my Mac, but I had my Note for, I don't know how many years.
We'll fully convert you. Don't worry about it.
It became so hard to do work, and like it saved a ton of time. But I'll tell you the crazy, I think more than anything else, how many text messages I got. They're like, "Oh my God, thank you, Blue Bubbles." I was like, seriously? Like, you guys are, Androids, we just want to make you work a little harder. You want to send us that photo? You're going to have to email that shit to us. Enjoy. Thank you.
Yes.
Greg, so much fun. Anything else we need to cover? Did we cover it all?
I don't think we covered it all, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head that really sticks out. We covered AI. We covered different pixel technologies. We covered a little bit about NADA. We covered bourbon out of a really large glass. And I think we covered everything.
I think that's the most important topic right there. Before we wrap up, though, you've got an interesting shirt on. So tell the audience what's on your shirt.
So this was my podcast. And I stopped probably about March or April last year. This is a shameless plug, by the way. I have teamed up, not to put another group of podcasters out there. Yeah,
thanks. So, okay, take it back. You can't talk anymore.
No. So a lot of the reasons I stopped doing the podcast was time. So I've teamed up with Fred and Lou over at Car Guys Coffee. They're going to produce the podcast for me, do a little bit to keep me on track. The other thing, when I did the podcast originally, it was just me. It was just me in this room with my camera, with the soundboard, and I would just pick a topic and I would just go into it. I tried keeping them 10, 15 minutes. The idea behind it was just intelligent podcast where, 10 to 15 minutes of consumption, something you could do while you're eating breakfast or driving to work. So we're going to do that, keep the same process in place, but I'm going to start doing it with other individuals. Like I'll have Fred and Lou, I'll bring in Russ, probably bring in Kendall and Dan and some other folks. And more so have those guys and what they're seeing in the dealer world or even outside of the dealer world. What struggles do they see? What problems do they see? Can it be attacked with data, or what is the best way to go about it? Outside of what's behind me, I don't plug M1 in the show or anything of that. It's done from a true just data and consulting standpoint, whether it be technology, data, security, privacy, compliance, so on and so forth. So starting April 1st, that show is coming back. So as long as I adhere to the schedule.
And the name
it's
of the
on
podcast.
Me.
Well, it's kind of like Comcast to me. So, it's about the same. What's the name of the podcast for those that are
Dataminds.com, but with a Z, not with a S.
Fantastic. So April 1st, set your freaking calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Tune into that one. You're going to have some incredible guests there that are very, very smart individuals. That is to say the least. That is for sure.
That is the plan.
Oh, wait, like that's, I'm like,
we'll get you on it. Don't worry.
Okay.
We're going to switch roles.
Okay. I was a little concerned there.
No, I didn't leave you out there.
No, it is good. Like I'll get asked like, oh, how do you learn? I'm like, honestly, the guests that come on, I learn so much from my guests more than probably any other way. Like, yes, do I stay up on articles and blah, 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 all that stuff? Yes. Like the normal way, I guess we'll say, of doing things, but the guests I bring on, like yourself, they're way smarter than I am. And I learn more from them from probably just anybody else. So I'm right there with you.
I try and send you the articles. Sometimes you
yes.
do it.
we do article exchanges. Awesome. Well, Gregory, thank you so much for being on the show. Come back on and dealing with the wonderful technical glitches we had. I super appreciate your patience and understanding.
Glad they weren't on the tech guy, to be honest with you. That wouldn't have been a good look.
You're like, I'm hardwired in. I'm like, all I can see is that my upload, like I think it was my upload speed was a little slow, but other than that, I'm like, everything looks fine. Comcast lied to me, lies and propaganda. But with that, like I said, April 1st, check him out. If you've not had a chance already to reach out to this incredible human being, this brilliant human being about what he does, and we got a taste of it today, but get that complimentary trial, see how it works in your store, see how it's going to benefit you and increase ROI for yourself. With that, everyone, you all know the drill at this point. Find a way to serve today. Find a way just to help somebody, bring the joy in their life. Maybe it's a kind smile. Maybe it's opening a car door, just something to better someone's life today. And that, everyone, we'll see everybody next week.